Welcome to Connect and Collaborate. I'm Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer, and I am excited for today's show. But before we get started, I want to ask our audience out there to please visit cobrt.com. You can sign up for our newsletter that comes out every Tuesday. We also have our radio page. You can check out this podcast and more under the media tab. Be sure to click on that. And also sign up for any events that we have coming up. Our next big one is going to be focusing on education, actually. That will be our second annual State of Higher Education Forum. Which brings me to my guest today. It's a little related. We have some education that we're talking about, some financial literacy that we're going to be talking about. So I have in studio with me Shelly-Ann Eweka. She is the Director of Financial Planning at TIAA, which is actually one of our sponsors for the State of Higher Education Forum. So welcome, Shelly. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me here today, Alex. It's a pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about you. Let's walk me through your education and how you ended up at TIAA and why finance is important to you.
Okay, well, as a certified financial planner practitioner, I am excited to be here today to support Junior Achievement and their mission to improve financial knowledge for our community's kids. I grew up in New York, and I graduated from the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I've been in the financial services industry for over 25 years.
Nice.
I started as a teenager.
Yeah. I was going to say you look great.
But over 20 of those years, I spent in financial planning, working with different financial planning organizations in different financial planning roles. I have been with TIAA for over 13 years. And for the last 8 of those years, I've been leading a team of financial planners such as myself. Personally, I have been married for over 20 years, and I'm a proud Colorado resident for 8 years now.
Nice.
How I got to TIAA is, as a financial planner, TIAA does have financial planning as one of the core points of how we service our clients. Okay. And so it was a natural fit for me to work there, and I enjoy and I'm very happy to be an employee there.
Awesome. That's always good to hear. And I imagine after 20 years in finance, you find a home and it works out well. I want to ask you, so when I think financial planning, I don't know about you, but I'm thinking about sitting down and doing a budget and how much I hate all of that all the time. But I imagine that there's more to your role than that.
Yes, okay. That is one of the very core parts of financial planning, is understanding how you manage your cash flow. Mm-hmm. Also understanding your net worth, what you own and what you owe, but also helping you to plan to meet your goals. Yes. And if you think about it, everything in life has to do with finances. And so financial planning is really setting a roadmap for how can I achieve all of my goals, whether that's buying a home, putting your children through college, making sure that you can retire on time, getting yourself out of potential financial debt that you have, and making the right financial decisions for you and your family.
I like it. Thank you very much, Shelly. Welcome. I also have with me in studio Mike MacDonnell. He is the Chief Learning Officer at Junior Achievement Rocky Mountain.
Right.
How are you doing, Mike?
Great, thank you.
Yes. So Junior Achievement and TIAA have teamed up. But before we get into what that's all about, I want to meet both of you. I also have here with me Meg Chapman, Senior Manager Program Volunteers and Curriculum, which is a mouthful, and we'll get to what exactly that all entails in just a moment. But Mike, please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Great. I'm a third-generation Colorado native. Just fantastic to be in Colorado. Love it. Youngest of 9. And so we all stayed in Colorado, and it's been fantastic with that. I went to high school at Arvada West High School, then went to Metro State and had a business management degree, worked for a while. Then my other career was in education. Former teacher, assistant principal at the middle school, high school assistant principal, high school principal, and middle school principal. Ah. And so I stayed in that for quite some time. And then during that, I also opened a restaurant, ran that for 6 years, and then sort of back and forth in education and business, and had some opportunities, and then started with JA about last August.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm fairly new with JA, but fantastic opportunity to stay in the same space with education and business, and be working with a lot of K-12 partners bringing our programs to the students.
That's awesome. So coming from the background of education, but going into a nonprofit organization, I'm sure a lot of people were sad that you left the education space, but bringing in that knowledge is impertinent, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been valuable to have that background and work with, our staff and then work with the schools and sort of melding both sides of the fence together and just bringing these programs to life. And it's been beautiful.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Well, Meg, I assume you've been there a little bit longer than Mike, so maybe let's talk about your role and how long you've been involved in any college or education you want to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been at Junior Achievement for 5.5 years. My background before that was in education more as well. I did my master's of secondary ed at DU. Did my bachelor's actually in English and creative writing at the University of Puget Sound. So
see, you can get a nice job with an English degree.
Don't let anyone absolutely. It's all about communication. I mean, absolutely. So, but yeah, no, I've loved being at Junior Achievement. I've gotten to tackle a lot of different roles while I've been here. I work really closely with a lot of our volunteers and a lot of our large corporate partners like TIAA who really get behind Junior Achievement and our programs and are able to support what we do by providing volunteers and sponsorships and these kind of partnerships like what we're doing during Financial Literacy Month.
Awesome. So let's go ahead. We beat around the bush on it, I think, as much as we can.
Yeah.
So the main reason for your partnership, TIAA and JA, Junior Achievement Rocky Mountain, was mostly to focus on financial literacy, which, as we know, April is Financial Literacy Month, so we're right on track with that. That being said, obviously, I don't know about you guys, but the only thing I remember learning finance-wise in high school was how to write a check. And those are pretty much gone by the wayside at this point in time. So let's talk about what we need to know about this partnership, this program that you've got.
So
Go ahead.
maybe start a little bit with kind of what our programs look like and how TIAA has supported that. And then maybe we can jump into this month of April. But in general, we at Junior Achievement feel like financial literacy is really essential for students to learn from a young age. So we actually do programming kindergarten through 12th grade. And of course, that focus is going to be really different in high school, for example, than it would be in kindergarten. But even at that young age, we start talking about needs and wants and trying to reinforce those concepts in these students and just help them be aware of everything that Shelly was talking about and the planning that's involved. And then by the time they're in high school, we actually have them working on budgets and kind of working through fictional personas at times to think through what it means to be a real grown-up. And so TIAA has been really instrumental in implementing and supporting those programs in our classrooms. So
yeah, providing a lot of volunteers too.
Yep, absolutely.
And here at TIAA, we feel that it's a natural fit to partner with companies like Junior Achievement because we understand that providing financial education is extremely important to our communities. We live and we work and we serve the people in these communities, and we understand that financial literacy is going to help people make better financial decisions for themselves. It's all about educating yourself about how money works and how it impacts your goals. And so here at TIAA, we focus on making sure that we partner with organizations like Junior Achievement so that we can be that corporate partner to help make sure that we educate our communities.
Which is great because TIAA, 1918 is when they were founded. We were founded in 1919. So you're talking 100 plus years, right, on both sides. And I think with TIAA, their guiding principles about taking care of people and integrity and excellence, and it fits with our mission with financial literacy and work readiness and entrepreneurship. And I think that partnership is one of the best partnerships just because of our guiding principles match up so well. And so we're really thankful for that.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. And I like it when you have partnerships that work out so well like that. You both are on the same path to making sure people are informed and educated, and because the rising tide raises all boats. And
Exactly.
if everyone knows what they're doing with their finances, we're all a little bit better off. That being said, I always feel like finance is such a taboo subject, right?
Right. Well, it is a taboo. That's a great word. 'Cause
Totally.
I was reading this thing from T. Rowe Price, a study they did in 2017, they said like 69% of parents are reluctant to talk to their students about financial issues. So that's almost like they don't even want to talk about sex ed, right? Right. So and so it is a taboo subject, unfortunately, and so sometimes our focus is K-12, obviously, and that's where we really want to focus because we want to change behaviors, right? And when you talk about financial literacy, you have to remember the personal part of it. And so we also have a lot of adults, which you realize that we have a lot of adults that have made a lot of poor decisions that and it's not all the kids, right? But so that's probably where the reluctancy happens, because their own decision-making process and their own confidence in what they have done, it's hard for them to talk to their students. And so that is something that we would love to see change on both sides. We have to deal with it at this side, at the K-12 side, but I think like TIAA can deal with it also at the adult side, because that's what we're after, of changing behaviors of our population to help us get out of this debt crisis.
Oh yeah, it's a real problem, and I specifically remember my mom sitting around the dining room table doing bills.
Yes, me
right.
too.
Like I remember that. I would come home and she would be doing that, but she never sat me down with her and was like, "Okay, this is what I'm paying. This is why I'm paying this."
Yeah.
Like I said, I learned how to write a check in home ec in 8th grade, and that was the extent of what I was doing, and so. I made a few poor decisions in college, particularly.
Yeah.
The credit card for emergency.
Free credit card, right?
Exactly.
You got that nice T-shirt though, right?
I did. I still have that T-shirt. But that being said, we are taking care of this, and you mentioned this role of kids needing to know. So your focus is K through 12. What's the earliest that we're looking at getting these kids implemented on financial literacy? Is it in kindergarten?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And when Meg addressed it a little bit, we can start talking to them about needs and wants. We can talk to them about how money moves around a system. What is money? What do you do with money? What's
how do you
take?
Get it?
How do you save it? Everything that's related to money and how it moves, and then also just being an entrepreneur. And what does that mean? And we can start very young. We start at 1st, 2nd grade with those concepts. And these kids get it.
Yeah, they do.
They are engaged. A lot of it's gamified.
Yeah.
So a lot of it, we do have some lecture components to it, just to give background information, but a lot of it's gamified. They love it.
Yeah.
And so it's not too early. And these kids go home and they probably have fantastic conversations with their parents that night, which was what we hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And kids, we do need to start young with children. Children get allowance money. They get money to buy candy at the grocery store, or they get to say what they want for Christmas and things like that. So they are aware from very young ages about money and how and what it can get for them and how to use it. And this is the opportunity to reinforce and be able to start educating kids on how to make those decisions. The education absolutely has to start young. TIAA Institute basically says that financial literacy is just as important as education, because money is everywhere in our lives.
It's honestly what makes the world go round.
Absolutely.
It makes the world go round, and we need to understand how it impacts everything that we do. And so starting in kindergarten is the perfect place to start to really give that financial education and literacy to children.
I love that. So looking at the steps, obviously your kindergarten teachings that you're going to have are going to look way different from an 8th grader's teachings when it comes to financial literacy, right? So how do those steps how does that work? If you don't mind walking me through the program as it's implemented for stages.
It's really designed to build year after year. So we have a lot of partnerships with schools and feeder systems in the area where, we'll go into that elementary school every single year and have a volunteer in every single classroom. So TIAA, for example, volunteers at Swansea Elementary School every year.
Okay.
And so, for example, in kindergarten, they're going in and they're starting with some of the needs and wants discussions. There's a really good activity just about decision making that really gets started on some of that track too. And then again, the next year in 1st grade, they're going to have another TIAA volunteer in their classroom. And they're going to build on that. And so talking again about some needs and wants, but also about job acquisition, about what it takes to make a community function and the different jobs that they might do just even within their own families. And then it builds, up through 5th grade. So by 5th grade, they're talking a little bit more broadly about, what it means to be a functioning adult and apply for a job and some of those pieces and how they contribute to just being a real world person. Yeah. And then by middle school, we're delving into specific topics more deeply. And so teachers can request certain programs that deal with certain topics. So right now, for example, I've been volunteering in a classroom and teaching students about the global economy. And it's really neat because it's a step outside of the personal in some ways, but it's also teaching students about this idea that what they need and what they want is built in this whole universe of marketplace. And that's a really cool lesson for them to learn and understand. And just some of the concepts about cost of living and currency. And it's amazing how we
Tariffs,
talk about these big...
trade.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And they hit on their daily lives.
Yep.
And so one of our most popular programs at the middle school level is JA Finance Park. And it is a really cool program that's actually taught in the classroom beforehand by a teacher. And the teacher does 6 to 12 lessons where they're really building through, how to build a budget. Yep. And just, what credit and debit mean, all these different
savings,
concepts.
investments, taxes.
Totally.
Yeah.
Insurance even.
Yep.
And then it actually has a huge, fabulous capstone event that they do. So every student who goes to this program does those classroom sessions, and then they visit our Finance Park facility. And so it's basically built out like a miniature town, and the kids get there and they are a grown-up for the day. And so they have an iPad that they get when they first get there that's going to have this whole scenario loaded on there of this is who you are, and this is your job, and this is your credit score.
Wow.
Yeah. And so
and their income.
And their income.
Yeah. And if they have kids or don't have kids, and so then they sit around and they complain to each other. It's like, wait a second, I have 2 kids. I don't want 2 kids. Well, you're making $40,000 a year, or you're making $80,000 a year. That's not fair. And my credit score, what's a good credit score? So they start having those engaged conversations about, depending on choices, because everything, I think what Meg was talking about when we started the kindergarten program, it's talking about making choices. It's talking about making better decisions and also being aware of what's happening around you. You're part of it. It doesn't just happen to you. You can make it happen. And so we want to influence that, because the whole goal of, I think, with TIAA and JA is we want to change behaviors. Yeah. Right? So you have to do that. You change attitudes. And so with changing attitudes is everything we do on the educational side on both things. And so when they go to this Finance Park, this capstone event, and they're given these life scenarios, and then they're given within the businesses, they learn about all these different businesses, from childcare to entertainment to energy to housing to investing, whatever it is, auto. All of our sponsors are there, and then they go and they learn about each one of these businesses, and then they have to design a budget that fits their scenario, and they can't exceed their budget. That's part of the game, right? Yeah. You can't keep robbing Peter to pay Paul, and so we don't want that to happen. So it's just a good starting point for them to learn about budget, and about life, and that it is expensive. That your parents are making some pretty tough decisions, and I think they have a better appreciation for what their parents go through. I guess part of what we say sometimes is, for Jay, our goal is to make sure you're not living in the basement, at your parents' house, right? Yeah. We want you to be self-sufficient, and we want you to be responsible. And there's a lot of things that go with that as we go through the process. And this capstone event is a really good thing for our 8th graders. Mm-hmm.
Our 8th graders.
Yeah.
That's an amazing event.
Yeah, it is.
And to see where you can stand in the real world. And I like that you're offering the choices as far as knowing what type of jobs are out there too. There's much more to this than just budgeting and, making sure that you've got some sort of savings. There's way more that goes into this.
Oh, absolutely. Not just jobs, just education and choices you make there, which direction you want to go. And we're really lucky. We have a great partnership with American Furniture Warehouse, and we're in one of their stores. And so they donate the space for us to have the park there. And
cool.
It's been fantastic.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about your role. I interrupted you. I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just TIAA's role in all of this is really where I wanted to head.
Well, one of the things that we do is we definitely provide, in our partnership, we provide a lot of the volunteers, and we do it basically all over the country.
Okay.
I personally have been a volunteer with JA, and one thing I wanted to point out about the story was, and what I personally enjoyed, was how the games or the activities make children understand having to make choices. Because as a child, when you're growing up, you may not be exposed to the fact that everything just doesn't come to you in a silver platter, or just when you get home, it's just right there because your parents do all the activities and the work for you.
I'm still waiting on someone to have a grilled cheese waiting for me when I get home from work every day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But these activities really, and I've seen it myself because I've volunteered myself, it really opens up the idea in the child's mind that, wait, I can't get everything I want. I do have to make some decisions and some choices. And so I have to decide, do I want this or do I want that? Or how I'm going to handle this or how I'm going to handle that. So it's very important. But we make sure here at TIAA that our associates have the ability to have these opportunities to work with organizations like Junior Achievement. So that's how we get involved. We really focus on making sure that we let our employees, because as an employee, you definitely want to give to your community. And so we definitely want the employees to have the ability to service their communities. That it's very important, and that's very much in our culture. We see employees all the time. They want to give back. And we find that if we partner with organizations like Junior Achievement, it helps the employees have the opportunity to give back in the way that they feel most comfortable.
I love that. We only have a few minutes left in this segment here, but I want to ask, this may be a little off base, but when you focus so much on this and we're implementing this in kids' lives, are we asking kids to grow up a little too quickly, or is this, because I do think we're preparing for adulthood, of course, and it's impertinent to do so. You're gonna grow up anyway. We don't want people living in parents' basements. I totally get that. But is it perhaps too much, or did we really look at this curriculum hard to make sure that we're going for the right ages, the right information at the right ages?
I think developmentally it's designed to fit where they are. And I would say, Meg pointed out that it's very gamified, and that's true. We want it to be fun. I mean, the intent is not to scare kids, but to show them, hey, you can do this, and this is how it works, and to make it fun and engaging for them.
No, that's right on the money. And the whole point is, in anything, to change that behavior, change in attitude. So we're trying to tell kids that and show kids that it's not a scary concept. I mean, we're not talking about derivatives. You know, we're not getting into the Big Short, right? So what we're talking about is life skills that you start planting the seed, and it just tapers through their whole K-12 system. So when they go on to college, and we have 60-70% of kids that go right into college, and if they haven't had any personal finance, you know what that's like, and you said that yourself. They're going to make some decisions, and they come out with some enormous debt, and that's not what we want to see. We have to stop that. And so with these students, I think they start to see that I didn't know I could, to wow, this isn't that tough, to I can, right? Moving from I can't to I can.
Yeah.
And that's Jay's philosophy. That's probably TIAA's philosophy too. And I think that's really important. So there's nothing that I have seen in any one of our programs that is beyond the scope of those students involved in those programs. Mm-hmm. And that's fantastic, because I think what Meg said is at the developmentally appropriate level.
Which is awesome to hear. Yeah. We're going to continue this conversation, so stay with us here on Connect and Collaborate. Be sure to like and subscribe our YouTube page while you're here. And we will be right back with Shelly-Ann Eweka, Mike MacDonnell, and Meg Chapman. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Connect and Collaborate. Once again, I'm Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer, and we are talking with both Junior Achievement Rocky Mountain and TIAA. And you might wonder, one's education, one's finance information. Why are you teaming up? Well, Financial Literacy Month is in April, so very excited to talk about that and a little bit more about your partnership here and how that's evolved over the years. But just to reintroduce everyone, this is Shelly-Ann Eweka. She is with TIAA, the Director of Financial Planning. I also have Mike MacDonnell, a Chief Learning Officer for JA Rocky Mountain, and Meg Chapman, who is the Senior Manager Program Volunteers and Curriculum at JA. So thank you all again for joining me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we were talking in the last segment about financial literacy overall, and we were talking about the students and getting them involved, and we looked a lot at the elementary space, right? And that's where TIAA, they're with Swanson Elementary?
Swansea.
Yeah. Thank you. Swanson, I was way off. So they volunteer with an elementary school every year, and you have the capstone program for the 8th graders, which sounds amazing, and I'm so, like, can I go on that field trip? I would love to do that. Yeah. But after that, teens, right? They obviously need to get some financial literacy done particularly before they go to college. That was a really tough time, I think, for all of us stepping out into a space of, oh, I'm on my own, and I'm already creating all this debt, particularly if you're going to college. But then there's, at those fairs, there's a lot of credit card predators is what I call them, quite honestly. But yeah, it's for 0% financing. I get a mug and a T-shirt, and what? Yeah. Of course I'll sign up.
Yep.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about more about the teen side of things and what kind of programs you've got surrounding that.
Well, we have the classroom programs, obviously, and we don't do what we do at the elementary level, which is called J in a Day, which is considered where they come in. Meg was talking about to adopt a whole school, take over all the classrooms, do it in one day, and then we wait and do it the next year.
Yeah.
We look at more traditional models at the high school level. So we may take personal finance and teach that over 6 weeks and come in once a week. Or Meg talked about the global marketplace. We're doing that program. We're coming in every week for 6 weeks, and we work with the teacher and we work around the schedule for that. So that's a little different model. The volunteer, sometimes it works for the volunteer schedule too. You have to sort of match that up with the schools, but several different programs there. And then we also have other capstone events, and where we work with entrepreneurs and Entrepreneurship Week. We also have a business week camp for high schools, sophomores, juniors, seniors, that's held at Johnson & Wales University, and that's in June. And the students come down there for a whole week, and they work with local business leaders and entrepreneurs on several different projects. So they're getting that experiential, hands-on, authentic learning opportunities, which is great.
Yeah.
Exactly. So a lot of the ones at the high school level are also designed the same way, with project-based and scenario-based and case studies. And we do things in our space, which is financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and career readiness. So from personal success, about how to start a job, how to get a job, how to keep a job, what are employers looking for, how to brand yourself, things like that, career success, how do you move within jobs. So it just depends what need is there from those teachers in their specific program where they're going to work with us. Okay. And so we have a pretty comprehensive offering of programs that can work in a lot of spaces.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I like that.
No, I was going to say, it's really important. We're really happy that, we partner with Junior Achievement. We do a lot of research as well through our TIAA Institute. And we know that financial literacy is very important because we know that people who have higher financial literacy scores, they have more positive personal financial experiences. So when we talk about the teens and getting them prepared to go to college and be able to make the right decisions when they go to those, when I started college, it was all the tables that were on campus, all the different credit cards that you could just go to the table and sign up.
Exactly.
And so in order for the students to be educated financially, to be able to make those right decisions, we want them to be able to have those personal financial experiences and be able to be happy with their decisions and their choices. We want them to know how to not overdraw on their checking account, and how to use credit cards or credit appropriately. And so it's really important, especially here at TIAA, but we're very happy that we partner with Junior Achievement to give them that education so that they will have those positive financial experiences in their lives as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I wanted to let's talk about the involvement. I would like to speak of your involvement with TIAA and JA. It's been a partnership for a long time now. You've been at JA for about 5 years, and you've seen it grow exponentially.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen it grow in your time with TIAA. So let's talk about that and how much it's evolved. And because I imagine at some point when a business comes in, it's a little awkward, right? It's like you're finding your way around. You're learning what JA needs, things like that. But let's talk about the involvement of it.
Yeah, so it's funny actually, Shelly and I were talking about earlier that I know when I first started working at JA, TIAA was really involved, again, in the community, and you've expressed how important that is to you guys, and partnered with Bruce Randolph High School. And we did a day every spring where we'd have TIAA volunteers go into those classrooms. And, it was a smaller group and really dedicated, excited, enthusiastic volunteers working at the high school level. But it's wild. I mean, since I've been here, it's just grown so much. And it's been really cool to see these volunteers just get so excited and passionate about working with students at all levels. And so today we do a really big event every spring with Swansea Elementary School. They put 2 volunteers at least in every classroom. So we have, upwards of 50 volunteers that just take over this elementary school. And it is such a fun day for the students, and they really look forward to it. But on top of that, TIAA volunteers are at our finance park at least once a month. I mean, it's amazing. We have this incredible crew of folks who will come up and work with the students, coach them through that budgeting kind of simulation that really gets them into the mind of an adult for the day. And so last year, for example, last school year, we had over right around 150 TIAA volunteers who volunteered with us. So cool. And that impacted over 1,500 students. And so making a really huge impact in their community and really getting involved on a regular basis, which is amazing too.
That is amazing. I love hearing that. Speaking of volunteers, though, we were talking on the break here. You guys just launched this week a new part of the website, jacolorado.org/take-the-pledge. Otherwise, if you just go to jacolorado.org, exactly. I'm sure there's a bright big banner that says "Take the Pledge." So tell me a little bit more about this and volunteers.
Yeah, so this is part of, TIAA and Junior Achievement's drive to, get volunteers in the classroom for Financial Literacy Month and really support our students. And so during the month of April, we're really encouraging volunteers to go here and take a pledge that says, hey, I'm willing to get into a classroom and talk to students and help support their education and their learning about financial literacy.
Yeah, prospective volunteers,
yes, totally. That's key.
We want to try to get our new volunteers because that's our sweet spot. I mean, the volunteers and what TIAA does for us is remarkable, and I think that partnership is a model. And I wish I could say that was across the board for all partnerships because currently we're probably, when I calculated last week, about 300 classrooms are asking for our JA programs, K-12, and that translates about 5,000 to 7,000 students that are asking for these programs, but we can't deliver them without volunteers. So we are in a great need of volunteers and the partnerships, and it's amazing because it's not just for the kids, and I think we've talked about this a little bit. To teach is to learn. And for ourselves and what we get out of that and going into the classroom is so valuable. And so a lot of times the volunteers come out and say, wow, that was just incredible experience, very special. Sometimes they don't know what they're getting into,
right.
And it's a little intimidating. Sometimes it can be intimidating going into a classroom, but when you're working with a partner and you're in there and by the end of the day and you see the enthusiasm of the students and you look back and what you brought to them, it's incredible. And so it's an experience that if we could just replicate that and say, this is what you're getting into, and then this is how it is, I think we would have volunteers all over the place. It's just getting that message out. And again, what TIAA does for us is incredible. And so this Take the Pledge drive, we right now, currently, and I know this is not airing till later, but right now it's at 0. And so we definitely want to see that pledge number go up and get some new volunteers in our organization.
Yes.
And I wanted to talk more about being a volunteer, as myself have been a volunteer, and I am a financial planner. So some people may in their mind say, well, that's for people who are in the financial industry or people who have that that education or that knowledge. But from my personal experience of having volunteered with JA multiple times, they do make it very simple and easy for the volunteers. The information, you also are working like he said with the teacher, so you're not in the classroom by yourself. You do have another adult there with you.
Good, because children are scary. Terrified.
Nah, they're fun.
They're a lot of fun, and they get really involved, and they really enjoy the activities. But it's very easy, and I don't want to make it seem like it's just you just wake up and go in. But it is. But it really is not intimidating. The experience. They really give you the information and the tools to be able to make sure that you are helping the kids and you facilitate. It is really, the exercises are very easy to understand and easy to explain to someone else. So it's really, I do encourage people to, it is a great experience, and I do encourage people to at least take part of it at least once a year. Make it a priority for yourself. Just put, the time on your calendar. At TIAA, our associates do have the ability to take some of their time during the day, during the workday, to be able to go volunteer. Other organizations may also offer that, and people can see if their companies support them that way as well. But even if they don't, even taking the personal time, you just feel so great about being able to work with the kids. And also, like he said, you definitely learn a lot yourself. I learned a lot myself when I was doing the volunteering through Junior Achievement. I really did.
Oh, I bet you did. Well, and that's wonderful to hear, because my first thoughts about not wanting to volunteer, I don't have a finance background, right? And so I'm thinking TIAA or financial institution, it's a right fit for you to come in and talk about financial literacy. But for me, like, maybe I could do something else. But to know that you've already got it written out and it's ready to go, I just need to help relay that information. It takes a weight off my shoulders.
Yeah, no, it's all the programs. We have guidebooks, and then we also provide all the training. So it's not, you don't go in there cold at all. There is some prep work, we won't lie about that, to get ready. But everything we provide to the schools is free. Awesome. Everything. They don't pay for any of the training. They don't pay for anything for the materials. And so that's also a great service that we can do that. But that's also through our partnerships that we have with our corporate partnerships and TIAA supporting our efforts. But those guidebooks, they're laid out lesson by lesson, teaching tips. So even if you're a little scared of kids, you're still going to have these tips that are going to say, okay, try this. And the teacher's right there. And the teacher helps with the classroom management. So again, it's a really good environment.
That is a really cool environment. And I want to talk a little bit more about businesses, because you mentioned that TIAA, you offer that time to your employees, and so they can come and do their volunteer work. I know that for my company, I get a few extra health savings account points, right? And so that goes into making sure I get a little extra bonus in my health savings account when I volunteer somewhere. Which, it's really cool. And so I think a lot of businesses would be better off offering some maybe time to go volunteer so that people can do it. Yeah. I'm sure you agree with that.
Support that.
That being said, how can these businesses get involved?
Well, a lot of ways. A lot of times we're prospecting too, and then it's also through our networks. And so we will go out to them, or they may have heard it through somebody, or maybe a friend of theirs volunteered, and then they have a contact at a company, and so we contact them. And so they can get involved by just contacting JAColorado.org, and coming to us. We have on our website, you could put in a volunteer interest inquiry, and we'll contact them. We'll set it up. We'll see if they just want to do an individual volunteer opportunity, or if they're working for a corporate or a corporation, we could also see, hey, let's talk to that and see if we want to arrange something bigger than just an individual volunteer. So it's a lot of back and forth, a lot of time, but it's well worth it.
I would agree. I definitely think it's well worth it, and I don't see any reason why a business shouldn't get involved. You want your future employees to do well with their money, your clients' money,
Absolutely.
etc.
Exactly.
So I'm going to turn back a little bit more and talking about financial literacy in general and how important that is. I imagine that it's in April because tax day is also in April. Is that on purpose? Do we know the implementation behind that?
Wow. I don't know. That's a great question.
That is a great question.
We'll have to Google that later.
Right.
Totally.
Remember, you better have your savings so you can pay your taxes. Is that what it is?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Whatever the origin is as to why April is Financial Literacy Month, whether it has to do with being around tax season or not, it is a great time. It worked out because when people are doing their taxes, that is the time that people do start thinking about their finances and either how am I going to pay that tax bill or what am I going to do with that tax refund. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of financial decisions around that time. And so whatever you Google and find out is the reason why it worked out.
I'll be sure to let you know.
But as we know, financial literacy is so important. We've talked about some different reasons before, but as you know, especially, well, it's global, but in America, we know about the credit card debt situation. We know about the retirement savings situation that we have going on in our country, and Americans having to struggle, not having the ability to come up with money to pay for certain expenses, and even what we call it being financially fragile. Okay, not having the ability to come up with a certain amount of money within a short amount of time in case there's a critical emergency in your life. Yeah. And why are these things happening in our nation, and what can we do to, help with that? And really, financial literacy it's wellness or well-being. It's not about the size of your paycheck.
Of course not.
Right. It's about making those wise decisions. But how do you make those decisions if you don't understand, or you don't really know? You don't understand how debt works, or you don't understand how saving for your retirement works and making investment decisions, if you don't understand how a stock works or how a bond works. And that is very important, because that is what makes up how you meet all of your different financial goals. So that's why financial literacy is so important, because just educating people on how money works and how to make those decisions, it impacts everything in their lives. And people feel more comfortable and they feel better about making those decisions when they are aware. So that's why the education is just critical.
It is. And I want to drive this point home again. It's not the size of your paycheck. Right. It's making sure that you're making the right decisions that impact your budget.
Exactly.
Yes. And so it doesn't matter how much you're making. Right. Yeah. We can all be financially literate.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's definitely relative. I love your term, financially fragile. Yeah, I like that a lot, because that sort of puts it in a different context, because it doesn't say financially critical,
right?
Fragile, that, we're at a tough space here, and we can do something to change it, because if it's fragile, right, we can move to that next spot before it becomes critical. And I think that is a great way of looking at it. And I think, again, it is on the educational side, because like I said earlier, I mean, if adults are reluctant to talk to their children about financial issues, how are we going to change it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Where? And if we don't start getting after it in the schools and with our partners, then we could still be in a lot of trouble. And that's not where we want to be as a society. We have, over $1 trillion in revolving debt. average credit card debt is close to $17,000 a person. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
This was really high.
But it depends.
Yeah.
I mean, there may have been some issues, just like you address. If they, emergencies do come up, and there are things that people have to do, in healthcare costs and other things that do impact what decisions they're making at that time. But if we can get them to a point where they start being a little more prepared, then maybe that hit isn't as big.
Yes.
And that's sort of our goal.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Any last minute tips perhaps for adults going forward into Financial Literacy Month? Your top 3 tips that you've got for best practices.
Well, first of all, don't be afraid of your finances.
Okay.
Yep.
I like that.
Just start.
Yeah, exactly.
By understanding what you owe, what you own, and actually take a look at your cash flow. People call it budget. Some people don't like that word. Cash flow management, whatever you want to call it. But just take a look. Look at what you earn and what you're spending. That's the first thing. That's the number 1 step. And then the second step is to write down or go on an app or talk to your financial advisor about what your financial goals are. And we all have them.
Yeah.
So some of us want to retire at a certain age. Some of us have children that we want to put through college. Some of us have debt that we want to get out. Some people want to buy a home or buy a car or go on vacation. So really pay attention to what your goals are and talk to someone about them, about where am I at, how much do I have, and how do I get there. And then my third tip would be to be flexible, understand that things change and that your goals change, and it's okay.
I like that.
That's really good. It's funny. You sort of remind me of an adage that says, "When's the best time to plant a tree?" Maybe?
Whenever.
Always.
20 years ago.
Yeah. Yes,
When's
okay.
the next best time to plant a tree?
Today.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so what Shelly-Ann's
Yeah.
talking about is today. Get after it. And I agree with that. And I think people can, as adults, they can read, they can listen to podcasts, they can go to YouTube. I mean, there are so many outlets, and talking to financial planners, and all those things can just start your knowledge base. And then maybe that can carry over into that next generation, the generations after that.
Yeah.
But it is that, don't be afraid, and start and just get after it.
Right. And they can go onto TIAA.org and click on About TIAA, Financial Education and Insights. Oh, and say that into the camera. Okay. TIAA.org. Click on TIAA, Financial Education and Insights, and you can start reading about financial literacy and how to make those proper decisions for yourself.
I love that. Well, in the last couple minutes here, one of my favorite things to do is when I have educators in the house, I like to ask you, if you weren't doing what you were doing, what kind of career would you have?
Wow, I'm very fortunate to be in this space with business and education. And so I'd probably do something more on the entrepreneurial side and be looking to start a business and something like that. But again, I would never leave the space of helping kids and working within school. So right now it's perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Similarly, I mean, I think my family started a business briefly a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm passionate about that kind of realm and business realm. But I think anything that connects people from different worlds. I mean, that's been a big part of my career is, just getting volunteers into classrooms, or previous to that, working in CSR and getting volunteers engaged in different types of projects. I think that's exciting and
That is exciting.
motivating.
And if you weren't in finance?
I can't imagine my passion is about helping people with their money. I cannot imagine, and I was thinking about it as they were talking, what in the world would I do besides helping people with their money? And I just can't imagine doing anything else. I'm very blessed because financial planning is my passion. It's in my DNA, and it always has been. So
I love hearing people so passionate about their jobs. Thank you all so much for joining me, and we talked about Financial Literacy Month. Again, one more time, visit TIAA.org. Click on the About TIAA. You can find financial education and insights. Also, visit jacolorado.org and click to take the pledge as well. You can find out more information on how to get involved with this program. Thank you all once again. We really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.